Buenas, ¿qué tal? Pues en este vídeo vamos a ver unos consejos prácticos, psicológicos, que pienso que son muy importantes de Tom Huggard, un trader institucional, tiene muchos años de experiencia y nos puede dar un punto de vista, pienso, muy importante a la hora de operar. Como él dice, no hemos venido a tener la razón, sino a ganar dinero. Entonces hemos de ponernos a trabajar en ello y como el ámbito psicológico, nuestra mente, es de lo más importante que tenemos que tener controlado para poder hacer buen trading. Así que si os gusta, vamos para allá.
My name is Tom Huggard, and I come from a very unique vantage point in relation to you. You see, I started working in the city about 20 years ago. And for the first decade of my career, I sat and I watched you trade. I must have watched 100 million trades go over the tape in the 10 years that I sat on a trading floor, whilst I was managing and hedging positions, depending on which direction you saw the market go up or down. And it does provide you with a rather unique insight to watch 50,000 people trade over a decade. You get a feel for how it is people are thinking when they're sat in front of their monitors at home or wherever they are in the world. And you notice that people tend to make the same mistakes over and over and over. And actually, very few people are capable of making money consistently. So as I left in February 2009 in the throes of the bear market, I realized that actually trading had absolutely nothing to do with technical analysis, fundamental analysis. And here I am, some 10 years later. This year has been a good year. I made more than £1 million this year. Last year, I managed to lose nearly 90,000 on Christmas Day. Would you believe that? Fear is what's stopping people from making money in the markets. Sure, people are good at making money at times, but the tendency is to make it, lose it. Make it, lose it. I believe that the only reason why I am good at what I do is because of my relationship with fear. I am what's called a high-stake trader. Some would call it an extremely high-stake trader at institutional size. The average bet amongst CFD traders here in the United Kingdom is £7 a point. My position here equates to £750 a point in the DAX. It means that if DAX goes 20, 30 points against me, I am faced with a loss which would equate to the average annual salary of a worker here in the UK. Thus, you need to have a rather special relationship with losing, and you need to have a rather special relationship with winning as well. Now, I could have come in here and I could have thrown all sorts of techniques at you. Bollinger Bands, Keltner channels, moving averages, crossovers, stochastics, MACD, RSI. Oh God, I've spent countless hours studying it, as I'm sure you have as well. But I am sure that you also realize that actually, no matter how good a grasp you get on technical analysis, there are still those days where you simply refuse to take your loss, where despite your best intentions, you simply cannot get yourself to do the right thing. So, you may quite rightly ask, do I get scared when I trade and I trade the size that I do? Of course I get scared, but the narrative...
La verdad es que se pone bastante interesante sobre cómo ayudarnos psicológicamente a operar. Y tiene toda la razón. O sea, el ganar, luego perder, ganar, luego perder. Luego también el tener una buena relación con el miedo. Él comenta que las operaciones que él hace, si acaban negativas, equivale al sueldo promedio anual de un británico. Por lo tanto, si se centra en solo pensar en esos números, seguramente se paralizaría. Y es un poco lo que nos puede pasar a todos. el pensar, bueno, al menos aquí en España, ¿no? Ostras, hoy he perdido 50 euros, he perdido 100 y automáticamente tu mente piensa, uff, he perdido un día de trabajo, he perdido 2 días de trabajo. O si ya pierdes 300, 400, 500, 600 en un día, dices, he perdido el mes de una jornada media en España. Entonces todo esto nos puede paralizar y que nuestra psicología nos afecte de una manera bastante importante. Por lo tanto, creo que es muy importante este vídeo, así que vamos a ver qué consejos nos da para que podamos ponerlos en práctica.
The narrative here is not that I am a fearless trader. I'm not even a fearless person. I'm scared of losing loved ones. I'm scared of sending my children out in the traffic. I am in no shape or form any different than any other caring parent is. If you put me out of the balcony over here and I stare over into the ground, do I get a flutter of nerves? Sure. But with practice comes experience. Now, I'm actually a firm believer that practice does not make perfect. And I would like to elaborate on that point a little bit later on in the presentation. And I promise you, I'll give you my rather unique insight into how I trade stock indices. So if you are that way inclined where you prefer to just stick to the technical analysis, I assure you, you're not going to walk out of here empty-handed either. I have desensitized myself to certain levels of stimulus that you face. A brain scan while I was trading during particularly stressful situations, such as Boxing Day last year. You will find that my amygdala doesn't light up like a Christmas tree. You will probably not even be able to discern that I'm losing £90,000 because I have blocked it out.
Primera palabra que dice es que él es una persona normal, no tiene los mismos miedos que tenemos todos, pero que en el trading, cuando está operando, ha aprendido a bloquear ese miedo porque si no le impediría operar días de máxima volatilidad o incluso días, como dice el Boxing Day, que es un día que perdió 90.000 libras. Por lo tanto, es bueno el hecho de aprender a bloquear esos sentimientos o ese miedo, o más que nada saber identificarlo para de esta manera dominarlo y bloquearlo para tomar decisiones coherentes.
I'm faced with horror situations while I'm trading. I seem to have developed an immunity to fear, which enables me to make the right decisions when they need to be made. Whether that's because I've trained or whether I was born with it, I don't know. But the fact of the matter is that my father was a vacuum cleaner repairman and mother was a nurse. So I don't think that I'm come from a heritage of risk takers. So my argument is that if I can do this with a rather unique way of doing it, then I believe you can as well. But it boils down to that practice does not make perfect.
Algo importante también es lo que está comentando ahora, que él al final no es que venga de una familia que hayan estado asumiendo riesgos toda la vida y por eso pues esté entrenado desde que nació para asumir ese tipo de miedos y volverse inmune a ese tipo de riesgos, sino que viene de una familia normal y él es una persona normal. Por lo tanto, si él ha conseguido tener esa inmunidad al miedo, nosotros también podemos conseguirlo. Y lo que está comentando ahora es que al final es la práctica lo que hace convertirte inmune a ese...
Practice makes permanent. And if you carry on practicing the wrong way, you will merely establish a behavior pattern that doesn't serve you. Of the rules by ESMA last year, or was it the year? No, it was last year, in August, September time last year, where all European Union brokers now had to curtail the amount of leverage that they gave to their clients. We used to enjoy 200 to 1, now we only have 20 to 1. And another thing that then established was that every single broker had to put up on their website how many of their clients were losing clients. That was a little bit like the cigarette companies being forced to put warnings on their cigarette packages and show draconian photographs of people in hospital beds with emphysema and lung cancer and anything in between. Yet it didn't stop people from smoking, and it certainly hasn't stopped the interest for trading either. But the fact of the matter is that ESMA has done us a favor, may not have done us a favor about margin, although there's many ways that we can get around that. If we really want margin, you just think offshore and you'll get your 200 to 1 if you want it. No, they've done us a favor because they've actually highlighted the true nature of trading. You see, if there's 100 people in here and 75 of them are losing, as it shows here on the CMC Market website, well, this is no longer a technical analysis issue. You're not a losing trader because you are deficient in MACD. And you're not running your losing positions because you don't understand stochastics or moving averages. This is not a technical analysis problem. This is a human problem. And the sooner that you accept that this is a human problem, the sooner you can actually do something about it. I thought that it would be the end of the CFD industry when all the brokers had to put the winning stat and the losing stat up on the website. But it hasn't, because people know it, people are aware of it. But people think, well, this stat doesn't apply to me, any more than the warnings on the cigarette packages apply to me. So, when we're confronted with charts, be it...
Algo que también pienso que es remarcable es lo que comentas. Si hay tantas personas operando, tienen sus estrategias que han corroborado que funcionan, o si no el 100%, pero un gran porcentaje sí que entra en el mercado y tiene algún tipo de estrategia, y que el 75% sea perdedor, es lo que comentan. Igual no es porque estés haciendo mal la estrategia o no entiendas una tendencia o no entiendas el MACD o diferentes parámetros que utilices. El problema es humano, es psicológico, el mayor problema de ese tipo de pérdidas.
The point here where I write here. At that point, you can buy. Buy the market. So to say I buy the market here. Well, I'm buying it because we have a gap up and now we've traded sideways in what I consider to be an ABCD correction. Yeah, I know my technical analysis. The flip side is I could also say, no, actually I'm going to sell because if this was such a strong market, it wouldn't have taken the buyers an hour. And we also know that 48% of all gaps gets filled within the first 3 hours of trading, and 78.6% of all gaps in the Dow Jones Index gets filled within 72 hours or 3 trading days. But it's really not so interesting to know whether this is a winning trade or a losing trade. Maybe I'm right. Maybe I am wrong. It really does depend on how many traders out there agrees with me and they back up my trade as well by being a buyers when I'm buying or being sellers as I am selling. So since I have no knowledge of the future, whenever people ask me, where do you think gold is going? Where do you think so-and-so is going? I say, do you know what? Come back to me next week. My crystal ball is out for repair. It's a facetious way of telling people to stop bugging me about where I think the market is going, because I am not Nostradamus. I have absolutely no idea. And anyone who says they think that the market is going this way or that way is because they have a vested interest or a bias towards a direction or another. And that's quite fair. If you're long Bitcoin, of course you're going to say that the Bitcoin is going to go up and you think it's going to go up. You wouldn't say, I think Bitcoin's going down, and then you're long Bitcoin. So it's not that I am not forgiving towards people when they state that they think the market is going up or down, or Tesla is headed this way or that way. It's just that the opinion is biased from their own position. So if my entries are purely random, and I'm a professional trader, and you may think, oh, as a professional trader, you may have a hit rate around the 80%, the 90%. Oh no, I most certainly do not have a hit rate in the 80s or in the 90s. In fact, you could even argue that I would have a better hit rate if I simply flipped a coin and then I applied money management. So either way, the sooner I accept that the nature of what I am doing is basically random, the sooner I can begin to trade as trading should be done.
Creo que esto es muy importante, el cómo mentalmente el sesgo que tengamos en una operación puede hacernos realmente perder nuestro dinero. Aquí dice el ejemplo de, bueno, tienes compras en largo Bitcoin y si compras en largo no es porque crees que va a caer, sino porque tienes ese sesgo alcista, ¿no? O en Tesla o en cualquier otra acción. Por lo tanto, de esta manera nos estamos dando a entender que predecimos un poco el futuro y nuestra mente centra en que ese activo va a subir o va a caer si hemos entrado en corto, que nos centramos tanto en que va a ocurrir eso que nos alejamos un poco de la realidad, y la realidad es que es un mercado, tiene una gran parte de aleatoriedad y es lo que nos puede hacer que psicológicamente perdamos, que nos centremos que nos centremos simplemente en una dirección y que igual el escenario que estamos viendo en un momento que no tuviéramos una operación, pues veríamos todo lo contrario, lo enfocaríamos de otra manera. Entonces la importancia de sesgarse en algo, sino alejarse un poco de ese sesgo y que sea todo porque siguen los parámetros que nos hemos fijado, no porque creemos que va a caer o que va a subir, sino si estamos en largo en una acción y resulta que está cambiando el momentum o está actuando de una manera que no esperábamos, pues igual es momento de cerrar la operación o minimizar riesgos y a partir de ahí volver a construir esa operación enfocándolo con el momento que está viviendo actualmente ese stock.
I hadn't seen that one coming, and I certainly hadn't seen that one coming either. But that's the nature of the game that we're playing. Now, do I think that charts is the holy grail? No, I like charts. I could devour 10, 12 hours every single day, a bit more in the weekend if you allow me to. You know, if there's no lawn to be mown or windows to be polished, you know, I am quite happy to sitting devouring endless reams of stock charts that I analyze purely to train my mind. But I'm also fully aware of the way my mind works. And my mind is not my best friend when it comes to highly profitable trading. So I don't believe for 1 second that charts is the holy grail, any more than I think fundamental analysis is the holy grail. See, the problem here is, ladies and gentlemen, that we have a brain which is at best chaotic and at worst just our worst enemy. And one of the little intricacies of our brains is that it has a tendency to see things that aren't there. This is a phenomenon.
Nuestro cerebro, nuestra mente puede ser nuestro peor enemigo en cuanto a operaciones, y en cuanto sepamos dominarlo o entender que nos va a jugar malas pasadas, va a ser mucho mejor. Y justo por lo que acabo de decir ahora, somos expertos en ver cosas que no existen o que no han ocurrido, ¿no? Entonces, el estar pensando cosas que no existen o que no han ocurrido nos puede llevar a tomar decisiones incorrectas que nos hagan perder nuestro capital o perder esa operación.
No, that in Latin is called apophenia. Now, if I was going to translate apophenia into a common language, it would be something along the lines of patternicity. So, when you think about the nature, for example, of indicators, take some common known indicators like Fibonacci. Let's say that we look at some of the ratios of Fibonacci. I'm going a little bit off track here, a little bit without any notes. Not that I really stick to the notes anyway. When a market makes a 61% retracement, some would argue that this is the ideal time to either buy or sell short, depending on the direction. And if that fails, then there's also the 78.6% retracement. And hell, why not throw the 88.6 and the 94.5% ratio? So there's always a ratio for the particular season. However, My argument is that if the market has already traded up to a 78% retracement, surely if you sell short at 78.6, you're actually betting against the prevailing trend. Some would argue against me. I'm not really so interested in what other people are thinking. I am more interested in trying to explain to you that the majority of indicators are available to the majority of people. Yet, considering that 75 to 80%, maybe 90% of all people engaged in trading are losing, maybe it's a time we have a real long, hard look at what it is that we're actually doing when we're trading. See, the purpose of trading is for us to make money. Purpose is not to be right. It's not to derive glorification through our efforts. There is one single raw purpose to trading, and it is to make as much money as possible.
Por lo tanto, hemos de operar como si fuéramos una especie de robots en los que solo nos centramos en operar según los parámetros que nos hemos preestablecido, no en tengo la razón o porque hoy pienso que esta acción tengo un sesgo alcista y va a subir y tanto sí o sí me centro en que va a subir. No, lo que tenemos que hacer es centrarnos en nuestros parámetros, en nuestra estrategia, y si en el momento en que estamos operando esa estrategia pues nos está diciendo que hemos de salir, salimos, aunque estemos en pérdidas. Hemos de salir y no hemos de pensar que tenemos la razón y somos aquí más buenos que los demás o hemos visto algo que no ha visto otra persona. Por lo tanto, venimos a ganar dinero, no a tener la razón.
And the way you do that is simply to begin to think differently. And I stated earlier that if 75, 80, 90% of all people are losing traders, we also have to assume that those 70, 80, 90% are normal, perfectly well-functioning people within society who hold down jobs as well as everyone else does, are intelligent, well-spoken, pay their taxes, look after their children, etc., but they can't trade for shoot because they simply think like everyone else does.
Pienso que ha sido un discurso muy interesante que nos ha podido dar una visión sobre cómo hemos de operar psicológicamente en los mercados y consejos que podemos tener en práctica o cómo enfoca él las inversiones cuando está en la pantalla, cómo bloquea ese miedo que a veces nos hace perder dinero o cómo no debemos de luchar por tener la razón en el mercado, sino por estar en los parámetros correctos o seguir nuestra estrategia que tenemos, y si en el caso que esa estrategia nos esté diciendo que en ese momento hemos de salir de la operación, pues cerrar la operación. O sea, regirnos solo por estrategia y por los parámetros que tenemos preestablecidos, no por sentimientos, no por tener la razón, no por tener un sesgo alcista o bajista, sino solamente por los parámetros. Y es la única manera de poder llegar a hacer dinero, que es lo que realmente queremos hacer. Por lo tanto, resumiendo un poco, ser muy bueno analizando, ser muy bueno tanto en análisis técnico como en análisis fundamental no nos va a garantizar el éxito, sino nos lo va a garantizar el conjunto de esos análisis de la estrategia y nuestra psicología. Así que trabajar mucho en la psicología, que es muy importante. Nos vemos en la próxima.